Charleston County Public Library is partnering with Trident United Way to offer more wraparound services for its patrons here in the Lowcountry. Today, I talk one-on-one with the Executive Director of the Charleston County Public Library, Angela Craig, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, sponsored by the Law Office of Sarah A. Turner. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Angela Craig with the Charleston County Public Library System. Welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups for this interview sponsored by the Law Office of Sarah A. Turner.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to be here today.
Oh, I appreciate it greatly. As I just mentioned, you are the Executive Director of the Charleston County Public Library. So as we sit here right now, Angela, what's new, what's now with the Charleston County Public Library?
Well, we're wrapping up a wonderful year here at the Charleston County Public Library. We have opened up almost all of our renovated locations. We have one location that is almost done. That is the Poe Library. And that should be open very soon. We're still kind of working with the holiday schedule, but that is the last of our small library locations. That means that we have opened up all of our brand new libraries and renovated all of our other libraries with the exception of the main library. So we're just waiting for the Poe opening, which should be in the next little bit.
Wow.
Which is exciting.
Very exciting. We love Sullivan's Island immensely. So let me ask you this, Sarah.
Sarah. You can call me Sarah, Andrea, Angela, whatever top of mind. We got it. I'm flexible.
Yeah, there you go. I appreciate that. Well, let me ask you, Angela, with all those small renovated libraries and the new ones that you just opened, how much did that actually cost the Charleston County Public Library?
That is actually part of our library referendum, which was improved in 2014.
Yes.
And that was the $104.6 million in the 2014 referendum.
Wow. And all of that actually covered all of these renovated libraries, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We still have the main library to go. And so that is the last one.
Oh.
Main is our biggest branch. And so that's going to take a little more time and planning. But we have now, with that referendum dollars, we have built, 5 new library locations, renovated the other 13, and then we have our main library coming up after we open up our Poe Library, which is great.
Very, very great. And let's go downtown, some place that I know very well, having grown up in the library there back in the 90s and worked there as a library page in the early 2000s. But let's talk about the main library. I know that particular library obviously wants to have a renovation. So tell me, how much planning do you want to take in when it comes to this?
We have been in the initial stages of the planning. It is our largest library location, and so we want to make sure that we're being thorough. County Council just now approved, and this is hot off the press, a lease agreement with Trident United Way, which is fantastic. Trident United Way is going to be coming in as a tenant with CCPL in the main library in the former administration area, which is not public service space right now.
Right.
They are going to be pursuing a 10-year lease, which we're excited about, where they can have a resource center, which would be housed at the main library, but we'd be able to cascade out all the services, the wraparound services that they offer, not just at main library, but at all of our 18 library locations.
Wow.
The reason, and this is huge, the reason why this partnership is so impactful is that over the last few years, we have seen at all of our library locations an increasing need of wraparound services from the public. And that means, beyond books, workforce development, educational success, all those things that we're really good at, technology help. People are asking for social service help, health literacy, financial literacy, legal help, things that we as librarians are not equipped or certified to do. So we often offer referral services to partners such as Trident United Way. But then we've been working on this for about a year, this agreement, and we presented to council and they have agreed on the lease agreement. And what this means is that Trident United Way would be able to be a tenant at the main library. They'd be able to bring in those services that I just outlined, which would help not just their clients, but also our library patrons that are honestly coming into every single one of our library around Charleston County, which is so exciting.
So exciting. So when it comes to the main library, how many library patrons there are actually looking for those wraparound services?
It varies day to day. And again, it is on average working patrons, working families who have jobs, and they are just having a hard time making ends meet. And again, main library being our largest, we probably see a high influx, but we have 18 library locations. And so we are seeing this as a consistent need all over Charleston County. So we're very, very excited that in addition to our core library services and our focus areas of workforce development, literacy, and educational success, we are now able to complement that with the wraparound services service with Trident United Way. It's still very new, so we don't have the agreement signed just yet, but the fact that we are able to pursue a lease agreement and that when we're renovating Maine, the Trident United Way will be part of that, and they will be able to renovate their part of the building as appropriate for their needs, and that when we open, and I'm not sure when that opening is going to happen, Quinn, if I do, I will definitely give you a call, but when we open, we will be able to offer our library services, and then Trident United Way will have a spot at the main library, which is very exciting.
Absolutely. So when do you believe the Trident United Way location or component of the main library will be renovated?
It will follow the renovation of the main library, which we're a ways off from that. So that gives us time to figure out, kind of the scope and how to work together. And again, we do have to have a lease agreement between the two entities, but we're very excited about that. So whenever Maine goes offline, and again, I'm not clear on when Maine's going to go offline, but when we do, we'll be able to work together to renovate the space. They would pay for their part, and then we would use referendum dollars to complete what we can within the main library.
And with those dollars that they're going to give to the county library, will that actually pay for the main library renovation as well?
No. They're actually going to be using their own funding for their own part of the building. So it's separate funding. They have their own funding for their part, and we will use referendum dollars for the library. So it's completely separate. That's a good question.
Oh, no worries at all. And I know the main library has been there since 1998 when I was a kid, I remember when it first opened. So tell me, what is the biggest difference with that infrastructure from 1998 to right now?
Yeah. If you walk into our main library, it really does feel like 1998, which is not a bad thing. And that's the thing. Like buildings change, buildings grow, just like everything. The technology that was used in 1998 is very different than what we have now. Now in our new libraries, we have emerging technology. We have maker spaces. We have 3D printers. We have desktops. We have Wi-Fi. People are bringing in their devices as well as using our devices. Our collection has grown and changed, but there's also been a need from the community where they want flexible space. They want meeting rooms. They want to have classes, but they also want to have one-on-one services. And so we've actually learned a lot from the past almost 5 years of where we have been, building and opening libraries, that the public really loves the core library services, but they also like the flexibility of having a community space. And so Main Library, because it is our largest, I think it's 104,000 square feet. It's two stories, and it has some unique aspects. It has the South Carolina archives there as well. Because we do have all this floor space, we're looking at some opportunities that we can only do at Maine because it is our largest branch, and we're taking some of the best practices that we learned from the other buildings and hopefully be able to integrate those into Maine.
So what best practices can you use for Maine right now?
We are seeing a huge influx in youth services, kids wanting to come to the library. We consider ourselves the out-of-school time partner for CCSD, but also other schools too. There is a growing homeschool movement here in Charleston County, and the public library is often the library for homeschool students. We are an excellent complement to educational success, and not just K through 12 students, adult students as well, where they are getting their degree, or college students. And so we very much like to be the complement to whatever education you're pursuing. And sometimes that comes in the form of you're a CCSD student, and your after school or teacher workday, or summer's very busy, or we are your homeschool library, or we are your library when you're an adult trying to get that extra degree or just learning something for fun.
I was thinking about this as you were just talking, Angela, but let me ask you, how many of those particular students are actually homeschooled that come to the main library for your career services?
I'm not sure for the main library, but I know across the system, we have a thriving homeschool population, and they definitely use our library services. They're checking out books, they're attending our programs. For example, at the Wando Library, I believe last year I was a judge at a homeschool science fair, and it was really, really fun. They had to submit an entry for science. They got classroom credit for it, and then I had to judge. It was very, very hard. I had to decide, who was the first, second, and third place I had in rubric. It was horrible because everybody was so talented. The kids were so great. They put a lot of, time and effort into it. But it was just like a science fair that you would find at any school, just happened to be homeschool, and we were the spot for that. So I know that homeschools will reach out to the public library for needs like that. Use it for meetings, use it for research, or just use it as a nice place to read.
Oh, absolutely. And a side note, I love the Wando Mount Pleasant Library because
Uh-huh.
I used to work out there a lot for the restaurant group. So I went out there a
Yes.
lot and worked there and charged my phone and all that stuff, checked out books and Wi-Fi. So that's a great place. But let me ask you, trending wise, what other core services do you want to bring to the main branch when it is actually renovated?
Yes, we are really wanting to focus on business and business innovation
Mm,
and successful business support. We know that there are folks that come to the public library when it comes to resume help, interviews, and things like that. But that they might need the ability to look at different software. They might want to learn about different fields. They might be in a position or in a career that they want to level up and they want to practice interviewing, or they want to develop. They're an entrepreneur and they want to develop a business plan. And so we know that there is an emerging need in the business community. We consider ourselves the entry level point with business, entry to mid level, people who are looking for those resources where they can come in. It's a safe space. We have databases, we have computers, we have Wi-Fi, we have classes, we have partnerships, and so we're hoping to formalize that a bit more, centralize it at the main library, and again cascade those practices, which we are already doing, but in a more structured way at the main library when we open it after the renovation.
And I'm probably going ahead of myself, Angela, but when do you expect this timeline for the renovation to actually take place? I'm sorry.
I don't know. That's a great question because it's such a big building, and so
Yes.
we are having now with Trident United Way. We're having to have some conversations. We're not closing anytime soon.
Right,
We're
right.
not closing anytime soon. And when we do, when we look at that timeline, we'll be announcing it to the public. So I think that calendar 2025 is going to be pretty much the same.
Mm.
I'm not sure, about the formal timeline, but I haven't had any indication that it's going to be closing anytime soon.
No, no, no worries at all. And let me focus on those classes. What other more, what new classes, trending wise, do you want to offer to those main branch potential patrons when
Yeah.
when it does open back up?
Well, and we're seeing a lot of interest in AI. There's a lot of interest in AI, and I think that's something that we're trying to embrace at the library. We think it's just another complement
Mm.
to business services, and that when facilitated well, when articulated well, it can actually help you execute a business plan. It can actually help you with policies and things like that. I would not trust it to write something entirely, but I think it's a good starting point. And I think that if you are a emerging business person or someone new to the field, or you're in the field and you're trying to track trends, AI can actually help you through the appropriate prompts generalize and articulate what you are trying to say, whether it's again policy, business plan, or things like that, or just like a press statement. We are helping train people in classes, both in person, online, and in larger classes, that AI is a tool, that you don't just take the first thing that it spits out, that you actually want to edit it, take a look at it. It's just like doing an internet search, but it is a hyper focused internet search, and it's going to pull out whatever data that you put in there, and the better that your prompt is, the better response that you get. But it's on you to edit it and to make sure it's accurate too. So
Yes.
we're having that discussion with all different types of people, Quintin. It's not just adults. It's like kids doing research papers. It's, adults again doing business plans, because we talk about plagiarism. We talk
Yes.
about, you can't just take people's ideas, because
Right.
where is AI getting all this information? Well, from the internet. So you have to make sure it's well cited. And so again, it's just a tool, just like when, Google search was a tool and people thought that it was the death of everything. It's just another tool. It's just another thing, in your toolkit to help articulate your worldview.
I know
That's the way I
libraries.
think of it.
Oh
That's the way
yeah,
I think of AI.
yeah, yeah. And I want to get back to that in a second, but you just touched on something, and obviously you just talked about this, the Google search almost being the death of the internet, etc. How do you make certain that the library is consistent 5, 10 years from now with the new
Yeah, yeah.
resources that you have?
That is something that, we are information professionals, information specialists. And so that's why we are always looking at emerging trends. We're looking at, what is relevant. We want to make sure that we're not innovating to the point that it's, irrelevant or inaccessible, but that we are right in that sweet spot of, again, with AI, it's not a trend anymore. People are using it. And so we need to make sure it is integrated in not just what we are helping with the public, but I know that my library staff are
Right.
using it to create, emails and things like that. So we had an internal conversation about, it's fine for you to use AI for emails, but like, here's some parameters for it. And it's the same thing when we're teaching classes about it. So I think being aware of, publishing trends, technology trends, building trends, community trends, that keeps the library relevant. We have emerged into an area where the library is very much about books, but there are services that cascade beyond books that complement what that original mission of literacy. Literacy comes in many different forms beyond what a traditional book is.
Mm. What is the mission of the Charleston County Public Library?
We have 5 focus areas. Our focus areas are literacy, workforce development, educational success, community engagement, centered on equity. And by equity, we mean we want to make sure that every single citizen in Charleston County is able to equitably access all of these wonderful resources that we have, no matter where they are in the county, no matter how they identify. So we want to make sure that, if you're in a rural area, you can access our resources just as easily as if you're in an urban or suburban area. And that's a challenge. Sometimes we do it really well. Sometimes we have, some work to do, which brings me to, in 2025, we will be launching our new strategic plan. We still have to have the board approve it. We are in the finishing touches of it, but we are going to embark on a 5-year strategic plan from 2025 to 2030, because in 2030, that is the centennial anniversary of when CCPL was incorporated. So a 5-year strategic plan is a little bit longer than what we normally do. It's like usually 3 to 4 years. We decided that a 5-year plan would lead up into the centennial anniversary of CCPL, and that we would celebrate 100 years of our wonderful library system.
Wow.
Mhm.
So, and I'm going ahead of myself once again,
Yeah,
but you
that's
mentioned
fine.
the strategic plan. But what values from the past that you want to bring into the future with this particular strategic plan?
Yeah, that's a great question. Now that we have all these beautiful buildings and we have all this great technology and we see how the community is using it, we want to optimize it. We had focus groups, and the focus groups were telling us unequivocally that we need to communicate better about all of our programs. They love our programs, but we're probably not doing the best in making sure that our community knows like all the different things we're doing. So we're going to work on a better communication strategy. But what we heard from the public is that they see us as a expert in a lot of things, such as finding books, educational partners, coming to for vetted resources. So that's really nice that the community sees us that way. So we're going to lean into that in our strategic plan. And again, we still have our 5 focus areas that I talked about: literacy, workforce development, educational success, community engagement, and equity, where that just helps us stay on track so that we don't have mission creep. Back to the Trident United Way partnership, that is also addressing mission creep, where we were finding over the last few years that we were being asked and called to do things that were outside of normal library services, that were more of wraparound social services, which we want to do. We want to help our public. We have a heart for service, but we're not qualified social workers. We're not qualified financial planners. And so if we're making all these referrals, we want to make sure it's with a vetted entity. So in order for us to be a library, stay with library services, having a partner like Trident United Way really helps us stay focused on, we do what's best. We do our library stuff really well, excellent. And then Trident United Way can help us with those services where the patron has needs beyond what a library can provide.
Absolutely. So, what public-private partnership do you want to have in the future to keep this going?
Right now, we're just so excited about our Trident United Way partnership, but we have in the community, we have over 80 partnerships around Charleston County. Some of them are quite large, like with CCSD. Others are smaller, more grassroots, where we have a rubric where we basically are looking to see, what does the community need? Does the library have, a role in this community need? Is this something that we can take care of internally? Is this part of, our 5 focus areas? Or is there a partner that can help us? Because we're having patrons come to us wanting these resources, but we're not able to provide it. A great example also is, our food literacy programs, where we have our free fresh fridges. That's a little something that's might be a little bit outside of what a normal library does, but we have people coming in where there are food deserts and food literacy deserts. We are not using tax dollars to purchase the food there, but we have partnerships that are helping us keep those fridges stocked, and community groups that are also keeping those fridges stocked. So that's a wonderful way of using local grassroots partnerships and around the county to help with a need that we didn't realize we were going to have, but has emerged, and we want to make sure we're able to help.
What are those other emerging needs right now that you and your team are actually focused on?
And technology literacy. Everything just changes so fast, Quentin. Everything, the platforms, and making sure that, not just my staff as, a team are well aware of emerging trends and things, but that we can teach it whenever a patron comes in. I use AI as an example because it's the most recent example, but, it won't surprise me when we have holograms and or something. And we're having to figure out, well, how does it translate in our lives? How does it translate in our professional life? But also, how do we help the patron? And we have different types of patrons. We have kids who are very tech affluent for the most part. Then we have, people like you and me that we probably use technology all the time, but it's changing and we want to make sure we're staying up to date. You might have people that are seniors that they've been out of the game for a bit, and that they want to come in and just ask questions and learn about emerging technology in a safe space. So being able to meet the need on that level. And what's interesting is in the last year, we have found that people are downloading ebooks at the same rate that they're checking out physical books.
Huh.
So the platforms that we are disseminating books, people love books, but the way that they're accessing books are different. It's not just checking out a physical book anymore. We have e-patrons where they come in one time, get their library card, and they download books and we never see them again, but they are very active library patrons. So that's something, again, we have to know how to navigate that, how to reach those patrons, how to serve those patrons, and make sure that we are keeping up with our databases, keeping up with our ebooks, making sure that those whole lists don't get too long, just like we do with our physical collection too.
Yeah, and I just had to use the library card just to go to the Dorchester Road Library right
There you
down the
go.
street here from where I live. But let me ask you, what is your physical collection right now versus the downloaded ebooks?
Like the size of it,
Yes,
or
ma'am. Exactly right.
oh goodness, I do not know that figure off the top of my head. I can get it to you, but I know that we circulated last year 3.3 million items in 2024, and that's physical items. Downloads, I don't have that data in front of me, but we are a very high circulating system. We have found with every single library that we have opened, all the stats are up. And what we have seen trending in our annual report is that everything is up: door count, program participation, computer use, circulation, notary, all these services that we track are up, sometimes as much as 20%. Our summer reading program is always very popular. That has grown exponentially every single year. We are actually planning for it right now. And,
Yes.
we will be launching that, later in 2025, probably about May, for the summer months. But yeah, that's one of our favorite marquee programs. And we spend a lot of time planning for it and thinking about how, what we can do for the community, what our theme is, and, how the branches are going to translate that.
And the better question I should have asked was this: how many physical patrons do you have versus ebook patrons?
Oh, they are probably physical patrons are probably more right now, but
Mm,
the downloads are starting to keep pace with physical checkouts.
wow.
So while we do have a ton of people in our building, a ton
Yes.
of people coming in, door count is high. We also have the virtual patrons, and some of those are the same. You have
Mm,
in-person patrons that are also downloading, and then you have people that only come to the building exclusively. They don't do anything online, and then you also have patrons that are virtual and they don't come into the building. I think there's a lot of crossover between our
yes.
in-person patrons. I think people do both right now, but it's interesting that you can download a book, you can check out a book, you can listen to an audiobook. Like I have all three. I have audiobooks, physical book, and a book downloaded on my reading device because I'm always reading or listening to something. And I think a lot of people operate that way, which is
Yeah.
great. So our collection is very versatile.
Oh, absolutely. And now that things are moving more virtual, what resources do you want to have in the future so that your staff can focus on that as well,
Yeah,
exclusively?
I think that, we will always have an in-person component. I think that people love coming to the library. But then what we've noticed is that when people come to the library, yes, they are using our Wi-Fi. Yes, they are using our computers. They're using us as a third space. And so what we have found is that we still have classes of 20 people, but then we have people coming in for one-on-one services.
Mm,
And maybe they want to learn something a little more with a mentor, or maybe they just, feel a little more comfortable asking a question, with one person instead of a whole class. So we found that, even though there is a virtual presence, people will still come into the library using our physical space, and they might be doing things virtually the whole time. It's really, really interesting. We love being people's office space, classroom, third space, escape from home when you need to get away.
Yes.
We see that a lot in the holidays
Oh,
when you
yes.
got to get out. We'll see an influx of that during the holiday season, just a little bit. We always do.
Oh, yes, indeed. Speaking of which, and this is probably an off the beaten path question, Angela, but with the growth that it is here in Charleston, how does the Charleston County Public Library keep up with that growth?
Yeah, that's a great question. We definitely look at census data. We definitely look at CCSD projections. We try very hard to make sure that our communities are being served. We're constantly auditing the area. Charleston's growing very quickly. I think there was an article that talked about how they're like, I think 32 people moving here every day. Is that right? And so that is potentially 32 new library patrons. And so we're also having to introduce ourselves every day to people. So it's also part of a marketing strategy, a grassroots strategy to make sure that when you move into your neighborhood, when you become a Charleston County resident, do you know about the library? Do you know about what we can offer you, the power of your library card? The best marketing thing that we have out there is our patrons. We have so many wonderful patrons, and they tend to spread the word better than we can. But of course, we have social media. Of course, we have a lot of great programs. And people have been coming into the libraries because they're new. The buildings are beautiful. They love the feel of them. It's not, I think, the libraries that some people grew up with, I was a 90s library kid. It is definitely a different feel. And I think that's a good thing because whatever meets people's needs, whatever makes it feel like home to them, we're so glad that we can provide that.
And this is a basic question too, Angela, but you just touched on something very interesting. What exactly is the power of a library card?
The power of a library card is the most powerful card in your wallet. Because it gives you access to free resources, which is great, which are funded, by your tax dollars.
Right.
With your library card, you can check out any of our physical items. You can download books on our Libby app. Our Libby app is wonderful. That is an app that connects your library card to an online database, but you have to have a library card number in order to do that, a current library card.
Yes.
You have to have a library card to reserve our meeting rooms, and our meeting rooms are wonderful community spaces. You need to have a library card for the most part to use our physical computers. You can get a guest pass, but there is a limit on how many times you can get a guest pass. And so again, then you can come into the library and you don't have to have a library card. You can sit there and use our Wi-Fi and enjoy our buildings. That's fine. But if you want to actually enjoy the amenities of our beautiful collection of, our wonderful meeting rooms and just other things that we have, then you want to have a library card so that you can take part of all the fun that we have with our beautiful collection and our wonderful buildings.
And speaking of which, what do you want to add to the physical collection next when it comes to books?
Books, we love all the bestsellers, all whatever is hitting the list. Now I know it might be a little controversial, but Book Talk really is a thing. Book Talk really does track trends, and so if people are looking at things on Book Talk, which is a trend on TikTok. People come in and they want to put those books on hold. So you have like the New York Times bestseller, you have book awards, you also have Book Talk, where you have people who have gone viral because they're reading a book, and then there's a social media campaign around it. It might be Book Talk, it might be on Instagram, it might be something, but we have found that is what people come in sometimes, is they want to know, well, what's the latest Book Talk book, and we will have that available, which is great.
Great. And you touched on it a little bit, but you talked about that app as far as people downloading and whatnot. Where is the Charleston County's own public library app?
I wish we had one. We are looking into for the opportunity for that. That is something that takes some time, thought, and funding. We know that we are now the type of library system that would benefit from having a library app. You're absolutely right. Other systems comparable to us have one, and so that's something from a strategic planning standpoint. It's always nice to consider. It's something that again, we want to make sure it's the right thing, right time. And then also we have the funding to make sure that we have the app that could handle the type of traffic that we know we would get if we had a library app. So yeah, so you read my mind. We have definitely talked about it, but there's an whole infrastructure thing that I won't bore you with. But
Right.
yeah, that's one of the steps we would love to take.
Is it the right time for an app?
I believe it's always the right time for an app. Honestly, I think that people look for information, and apps are a great way to really curate. The Libby app, and that is a library app. So like all different libraries use it. So Libby app is a great way to show like yes, library apps work. Yes, library apps are very popular. So in theory, a library app for CCPL would link you to our collection, but also our calendars. What's happening with your local library. You'd be able to see what's available at your favorite branch, or a branch that would be close to you, or a program of interest. And so, because we have all these grand plans for an app, we have to find the right time and the right platform and everything else. So it's definitely something it's on our wish list. And I know that if we can do it, we will do it. And I will definitely let you be a beta tester.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
And speaking of grand plans and obviously, new additions, let's go back downtown to the main library.
Yeah.
What is something that you want to add to the main library when it does get renovated?
We're very excited about really putting some strategy behind the flow of the building. Right now, if you go in, it feels a little bit disjointed because, over the years, we've just kind of added different things. And the teen area, which is on the second floor currently, was added later. There wasn't a teen area originally. So we want to design an actual teen area that complements the children's area. We have a lot of kids that come into the main library. And so we love all of our patrons, but we know that, families and the youth come to the library. And so we want to make sure that there is more of a designated youth floor presence and an adult floor presence, so that we have a floor designated for our youth and families, and that if you're an adult that would like to have maybe not youth and families around, you want to have that quiet space, that's okay. That is okay. We want to have those opportunities for those patrons too. We know it works really well because, for example, at the Wando Library, we have that beautiful quiet room. And the rule of the quiet room is you cannot talk in that quiet room. And I have been in there where someone tried to talk and everyone shushed them. And we don't really shush anymore in the public libraries because, they are very engaging, busy spaces. But when we have found we had the opportunity to have quiet spaces like a quiet room, people really like it. And we do think there is a opportunity for that at Main Library, if not a formal quiet room, like a quiet area, which definitely would not be where the kids are because that's always going to be loud, which is okay. So it's nice that we'll have that opportunity to program the building a little bit more efficiently and utilize that space in a different way.
Oh, that's amazing. We're looking forward to that.
I am too. I am too.
Well, Angela Craig with the Charleston County Public Library. Thank you for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin Us for this interview sponsored by the law office of Sarah A. Turner.
Thank you so much. As always, a pleasure. And please come to the public library.
Oh, I definitely will come back soon.